Hey guys, alright, welcome back to part 5, I think it is now, of our little RPG game tutorial series. And now we're going to work on actually making a player model. So I'm just going to have to buzz through this really quick because otherwise I'll run out of time. But just so you know, basically what we've got here, this is our simple little game level, right, with our little throne room and cool stuff like that. Again, I apologize for the frame rate, but it's not my fault. So, but normally you wouldn't want a box there, you'd want a character. Well, in most games there actually always is a box there, it's just that the box is invisible, and inside of that box is your character that you see. So just remember that in video games, a lot of times what you see isn't what's actually there. Another example of that is these. The pillars there, if I were to do the collision detection on them, would kill the computer. I mean, even if a high-end computer, you couldn't get much more than this number of them without it just having problems out the wazoo. These, however, so what I've done is I made it so that they don't pay attention to physics at all. In fact, if I move this to another, oops, not those, these to another layer and come back, I guess I want my lights, don't I? So I'll put this on layer 3. You can actually walk right through them. That's all I'll demonstrate here. So now when you play the game, you just waltz on through. Alright? And that helps free up a lot of the computer's processing power. And so then these, though, on the other hand, are very easy to deal with, very easy to mess with, or for collision. So you just use those for the collision instead and make them invisible. Alright. So what we're going to do now is work on our player so that there's a model inside of there. And the first step in that, obviously, is getting a model. Now, you can make your own, which is what I would suggest if you're making a commercial game. Otherwise, you'd have to go through all kinds of annoying stuff you have to deal with. But for this demonstration, we're just going to use one that's been pre-made. So I use this website called TurboSquid. They've got a lot of really cool stuff on there you can download for free. And this is the guy we're going to use for now. It'll be really easy for us to rig up and use. And then I will post this link right here in the description. The way I found it was just to type in here game character, and this was on down the list. Alright? And then I organized it by type, so it's free. But anyways, it's an OBJ file, which is perfect. Blender handles those really well. Sometimes 3DS files have issues, but OBJ works really well. And you're just going to go ahead and download this, create an account, and then it'll download a zip file, which then I just extracted onto my desktop. Okay, it'll give you an MTL file and an OBJ file. You really don't need this MTL file, so you can just go ahead and delete it. Blender doesn't always import everything exactly like how it is in, what is it that uses that? I don't remember what uses OBJ, but whatever. So, basically what we're going to do now is we're just going to come in here and do File, Import. Oh, this is a brand new map, just or new file. So, Import, OBJ, go to your desktop. All the others can stay exactly the same. Import OBJ. And there's your guy, alright? Now he's not the same color as you saw because we just deleted that MTL file, but it doesn't really matter. We'll deal with that later. So what I always do whenever you import a new mesh, sometimes because of the way it's exported, it has what's called doubles, meaning that there are two vertices that should be connected that instead are not. So for instance, an example of this would be here if I pressed V. It splits these. See how now I have two vertices in the same spot, but it looks exactly the same as if they were one. And all you have to do is select everything, so press A to deselect everything, A again to select it, press W, and then go to remove doubles. And you can see that was the only double. The one I created was the one that was there. So the triangles can stay. Normally if you're making your own, normally if you're making your own, you'd want to make it out of quads just because it's a little bit easier to deal with than triangles. But triangles work just fine. Just a quick explainer. This is a quad, that's a quad, 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 triangle, triangle, okay. Quad just simply means that it has 4 points in the polygon. You can only have 3 or 4 points per polygon. Any more than that, and it's really not actually a polygon. Like, for instance, you can take both of these and turn them into what's called an F-gon. Make F-gon. And now it's actually 2 polygons, but it's treated as 1. Okay? But it's still just really 1 polygon. Alright. So here's our little dude. So what we're going to do is we're going to rig him up. So first off, I'm just going to take this and tell it to center geometry to origin. So center of the geometry is where the center of the origin is now. So which should be right in the middle. Yeah. Sometimes you'll get lopsided ones, and so what you might want to do is actually delete all this on the side. And when you do this, make sure you don't delete vertices or else you'll get some really wacky stuff. Let me show you an example of that real quick. I'm going to go ahead and split that just so I can have perfect seam down the middle. There we go. It's gonna, well, we'll fix that in a second. So, if you did delete vertices instead of delete faces, what ends up happening is, here I'm selecting faces, but you could also do it from the vertice standpoint. If you just delete vertices, all of a sudden you've got some really weird leftovers. Whereas if you do delete faces, the edge vertices here will stay. There we go. Now you've got it split right down the middle, basically. And then you can add a mirror modifier. Come over here to the modifier panel, add, and then mirror, whoop, there it is. And then go do clipping. What that does is it means basically you can't go past the center line either direction. The ones that are on the center line will stay on the center line. So let me select this edge here, we just push it in, and it'll, boop, there we go, complete. And just to make it a little more round, we can pull it out if we want. There we go. Alright, so there's our little dude. And then go ahead and hit apply, and that'll apply it. So now we've got two perfectly mirrored sides, okay? And now you can see there's actually a couple of artifacts here of where it didn't clip quite right. So I'm actually going to go back to the original. But that's what you would do if and you just have to go in and tweak it. So, alrighty. Now, what we're going to do is go ahead and rig it. So I pressed Shift Space just so you know to get into this. You can, whichever one your mouse is over, that's what gets maximized. So, and then we're going to go and press Shift A, Create Armature Single Bone. Okay? Now I'm going to go into wireframe mode so we can see what's going on here. But basically, you're going to create the bones for every part of the body. So I'm going to put one down here. And I'm going to drag this all the way up to basically the neck there. Okay? Right about where the collarbone would start branching out on either side. And we'll leave that for now. This will be the main bone that controls everything. Now we're going to extrude out to where the shoulder is going to rotate. And I like, because the problem is one thing that's weird with this, you see how it's rotating oddly? How our bone that should be always face towards us, if it comes out here and starts rotating, it starts rolling weird. So an easy way to fix that and just make it look better is to come out and then move it around. Now it won't vary that. I don't know why it does that originally, but it does. Alright, so we're going to do that right about there. Okay, and then same for the other side. And the easiest way to do this I found is to duplicate the bone. Scale X -1. So now it's negative of what it was before, so it's exactly the opposite size. And just match it up right there. And then we say, we select that, select this, parent them, but then say connected. And now you've got one that's almost identical. Now from here what I like to do to keep them the same is I'll use, instead of moving them or dragging them, like instead of dragging them like this, I will scale them and move them up and down. That's how I control it, because then I can mirror it on both sides. So I press E to extrude, scale out to about the middle of this little spot here, which would be the elbow joint. Okay, make sure it's on the, there we go, good. And then we're going to do the exact same thing one more time. Extrude, oops, scale X out to the hand, well, to the wrist basically. And then extrude, scale one more time for the hand. Alrighty. Now we've got our arm structure, so let's work on our leg structure. The leg structure is pretty much the same, a little bit modified. So we're going to come out, and I'm holding down Control so that I can snap it to the grid. And what that'll allow me to do is then make sure it's the same, and I don't have to do that annoying process before. So I'm going to go here, here, and now I know it's at the same vertical level, so I can just move it over to the exact opposite horizontal because of this reference point. And apparently, I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. Alright, now these, if you notice, are not connected to this because they have to be connected to the tip of a bone. So just keep that in mind. These will be each root. Just like how this one, if we go into pose mode here, you'll see this bone here will move all the other ones. Okay, so whichever one is connected at the tip will move the rest of them. But this one doesn't affect any. This one doesn't affect any yet. Eventually they'll affect the, whoops, the legs. Alright, go back into edit mode. Alright, now just like how we did with the arms, we're going to take these. I'm actually going to pull them out a little farther because since there's no leg mesh, it's just these floating parts. We don't need it to worry about that. Okay, extrude it down to about the center there. And then extrude down for the heels. Go to the side view so we can see what's going on here. You can move it back a little bit. And then extrude it. Whoops, extrude. Move it out to about there. Alright, good. Now we're just going to make sure everything's lined up on the side view, and it looks like it is more or less. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be in the general area, and I'll show you why in a second. Also, if you want to move the center point, select all the center points. You can see there we've got all three of them, and that'll help out quite a lot. I'm going to actually pull these all back just a little bit. There we go. And then to give some movement in the chest, I'm actually going to subdivide this once or twice. Sometimes I'll do it 3 times, and I'll just take this. But anyways, we'll worry about that later. Alright, now let's go ahead and make one for the head real quick. And to do that, we're actually going to make one that goes up, and then it goes forward. Okay, and I'll show you why in just a second. Then we're going to delete this neck one, because we really don't need that. Okay? And then you'll see this little line, this dotted line. What that means is that this is connected to this bone, but there's no bone in between them. Okay, so if we go into pose mode, you'll notice if I move this, it moves the head bone. But the head bone is separate. Okay? Now we're just going to try something out, see how this works. So normally to add something to it, or to apply something to an armature, all you have to do is collect that, and then shift select your bones, so the bone is last. Control P, and then you can choose how you want to do it. Automatic weights works pretty well. Envelope weight works good for other things. This is if you wanted to parent it to a specific bone. If I was actually making this game, I'd probably split all these pieces down into individual objects and then do that, but I'm not going to do that this time. Alright, so just go ahead and do with automatic weights. And now we get to see how it works. So let's go ahead and try this and see, will our head move correctly? It appears to. It looks like the halo's not moving. We can fix that. Our arm appears to be working pretty well. That works pretty well. Our hand is working well. And it should be about the same on the other side. Alright, this is looking pretty good. Let's try our torso here. That works well. I forgot to put the extra joint in there, but it's okay. We won't worry about it. Leg works well. No weird issues there. No issues there. Alright, I think this will work pretty well for us. Alright, so that's how you rig it. And in the next video, we'll work on a couple of the little glitches that there are that we need to fix. And maybe getting a little bit of this finished out a little bit better. And then we'll see where we go from there. Alright, guys. Oh, don't forget to save, too. I've saved mine as player-mesh. Okay, because it's not the player, but it's the player's mesh. Anyways, so. Alrighty. Until next time, guys. Have a good one.